even if he had the uranium to hand, the capacity within Iraq to process that was a process of a year, 2 years, 3 years, hence people arguing for containment. And again, he didn't have the delivery systems for his chemical weapons. So in a sense, we get caught up in the fact that he had chemical weapons, which allowed him to be an unbelievably brutal, horrifying dictator who used them against his own people, notably the Kurds, killed. But that's quite different from saying that these weapons of mass destruction posed an existential threat to the United Kingdom. They didn't. And in fact, the French and Germans turn out to be entirely vindicated in saying it would have been much more sensible to contain.
No, that is, you can't say they turn out to be entirely vindicated. You wouldn't say that. What you don't accept, refuse to accept, is the possibility of that insight that Tony Blair had about a rogue state getting in league with a terrorist organisation. Right? That was driving a lot of this. The feeling that this guy had been tolerated for so long, and he had finally to be confronted. And I also think you're sort of just dismissing this. I mean, for a fact, he'd used those chemical weapons against his own people and against other nations. For a fact, had consistently lied about them, obstructed the inspectors, etc., etc. For a fact, had killed thousands of his own people with no respect whatsoever for human life, norms of civilized behavior. Now, what you're saying is there's no point at which you actually say, do you know what, having defied so many times the United Nations, having continued to show that the kind of regime that this is, are we seriously saying that stays there forever? At a time when that threat, which you, fair enough, is your principled, held with conviction opinion, just as Robin Cook held it, just as Jacques Chirac held it, just as Gerhard Schroeder held it, but Tony Blair held a different view. And you can't say with absolute conviction that he was wrong and they were right.
Well, I think
because what is they made